Hey everybody! I was recording a podcast episode this morning with Kathy Groover for the Fire and Earth podcast, and we ended up talking about money. And it got me thinking, got me inspired, and so I decided to come on here and do a live video about money. And today I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I may not give you a lot of answers because I don't even have the answers myself yet, right? So, but some things to kind of think about, especially as it comes to how we're doing business and our relationship with money. Okay. And so, like I said, I'm gonna pose some questions. I'm gonna talk about a few things and share with you some of the ways that I'm actually starting to do things a little bit different. Um, and some philosophies that I've kind of come up with because, for example, I think the people who need discounts should get discounts. The people who don't really need them don't really need them. And it's really gotten me thinking a lot about kind of the consumerism that we have, how we're actually doing business. And maybe it's time for us to do business a little bit differently. Maybe it's time for us to actually change our relationship that we have with money. Okay. And the reason for that is most of us, money is a big deal in our life. And we spend a lot of our day working to earn money so that we can live. And we work, we struggle, we fight to earn that money. And then often we end up giving it away very easily. And so, again, maybe in this video or another one, I'll talk a little bit about the difference between being wealthy and being rich, because there's a big difference there. Okay. But I wanted to kind of come on and talk a little bit about it because I think as we start changing our relationship with money, changing the way we think about money, for both, receiving it from a business perspective, especially if you're a business owner, maybe how you're charging people. And I'll talk a little bit about that because I've kind of changed how I have done some of that stuff this last year, and just try to get it so that money isn't the whole reason for our existence. Because for so many people, it seems like that, and we have so many money pressures, because of the way that we're living and because of the relationship that we have with money. Okay. And so let me again, this is recorded live. So here we go. Right. And if you're on with me live while I'm recording, if you want to, ask questions or put any comments in, I'll kind of be checking the comments as we're going through this as well. Okay. So what kind of came up, today in this recording that I did with Kathy, and again, I'm not going to give away everything. You'll have to watch the episode when it comes out. But she was sharing an experience about a chiropractor that she went to, and at the time she wasn't making very much money, and so the chiropractor didn't charge her hardly anything. And it got me remembering. I've heard some things about some businesses that have tried to do things like pay what you can. Okay, pay what you can, which looks like this. I've seen the example of restaurants. For example, somebody comes in to a restaurant, they order something, and there's no prices on the menu. And so you go in and you get what you want on the menu, and then you get up to the register and they're like, okay, pay what you can. Right, pay what you can. And so people that have more money and maybe are used to spending $20 for lunch, I'm just throwing numbers out there, they get what they feel is maybe $20 worth of food, or maybe it's only $10 or $15, but they choose to pay $20 or $40 anyway because they have the money, and it's not a big deal for them to do that. And those places, the people that have money are paying more, but it's helping to subsidize for the people who don't. Because in that same restaurant, somebody could walk in later who is homeless, let's say, and they're just really hungry and they don't have any money, or maybe they only have $1 or two in their pocket. And so when they get up, maybe again, they've got the same amount of food as somebody else, but they only pay $2 because that's all they have. But it's also a greater percentage of what they actually have at the time than the other person. And that this concept has always kind of fascinated me. Because again, if kind of thinking in the bigger altruistic standpoint, wouldn't it be lovely if we could have a world like that where people paid what they could afford, instead of sometimes paying more? Because the honest truth is, a lot of the lower paid people are paying pretty much everything they have just to survive. And I think there's different ways that we can do business, when we change our view of money. But in order for a lot of that stuff to work, people have to change their relationship with money, right? So again, I'm just pretending here. I'm doing hypothetical, but let's say I'm somebody who makes $500,000 a year. I'm very well paid, and I go into one of these restaurants. Maybe I should pay $100 for my lunch. $100 is nothing to me, but it's everything for that homeless person to maybe pull out the $2, right? So what if we could change how we do business so that the people who really need discounts can get discounts, as an example? Okay, and so I'm kind of explaining and talking about this first, and then let's get into talking a little bit about the relationship with money later. So, I was talking with a friend, actually today, who has rental properties as one of their businesses. Okay, and they had a renter who's been in this house for many, 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 many years. 8, 10 years, something like that. It's been a good renter. Yeah, every so often they might be a little slow in paying, but they've paid their rent pretty much every month. And this person came to my friend and said, in December, hey, we're having some financial troubles. We're not going to really be able to make the rent in December. Is that going to be okay? And so this person said, yeah, it's okay. If you can't make your payment this month or in January, that's okay. Let's get started again in February. And so again, as I was talking to my friend about this, it's like, he kind of considered it as, hey, this has been a long-term renter, somebody who has done a very good, has been very good to me in paying their rent on time. And I don't really need the money. And so he kind of thought of it as kind of a Christmas gift to this person, right? Of, hey, look, I'm not gonna take the money that these 2 months is okay, right? Continue to start paying your rent in February. Everything's okay. That'll give you a little bit of breathing room, right? Now, again, because this person is self-employed, they have the opportunity to be able to do that. But to me, it kind of is along this same line, right? Of giving help to people who need the help, right? This renter needed some help in December and January, and my friend was willing to give it to them. Now, most of the time when we think about money, it's like, no, damn it, that money is mine. And most people would say, well, I'm sorry, if you can't pay your rent, then you're going to be kicked out. You're going to be on the street. I got to find somebody else. Now, and again, if this renter does this for several months in a row, okay, then it's probably time to kick him out. But isn't it wonderful that this person could help someone else by doing that? So, an example from my life, right? I have different businesses that I run, that I own. One of them is a training company. And so we sell trainings to people all over the world. And, in the past, what we've done is, we have certain prices, and we set all of our prices based on US dollars, because that's where we live, right? I got to pay my people that help me in US dollars. I've got to pay US dollars when I go to the grocery store. And so my prices are in US dollars. But I also know that there's people all over the world, right, who get these services, and US dollars are expensive for them. And so in the past, what we've done is, we have kind of our standard pricing for the trainings, and then every so often we would offer discounts. For the next week, you can save 25%, or you can save 50%, or whatever on these different courses. And we would have a lot of people sign up at that point in time. And I got to thinking again, because that's what I do. I think and I ask questions for a living, right? And So it got me thinking and thinking about some of the different people who were serving in that business. And I'll give you an example, right? We have some people earning maybe 100, 150, maybe $200,000 a year in working in the US. And so for somebody who's earning $100,000 a year, for them to pay $100 for a course, or even 1,000 or $2,000 for a course, is not really that much, right, in comparison of what they make in total. Now, if you compare that with somebody, let's say, who lives in India or Africa, who maybe is only earning the equivalent of 15 to 20,000 a year, um, giving that person a discount is a much bigger impact, right, for them. And so as I got to thinking about it and decided, you know what, I don't want to give discounts to everybody because a lot of people don't need it. A lot of people, their companies are reimbursing them or are paying for the courses. Those people probably don't need the discounts. But the people who are living in Africa and only earning $10,000 a year, I'd like to help those people because those people need help, right? And so I've kind of changed how I do it now to where people that are in developing countries, people who work in governments, because a lot of times governments don't have as much money and they pay their employees less than corporations do. Those people, when they reach out, I give them a discount, right? Because I want to help the people who need help. And it got me thinking, again, just based on what I'm doing and kind of seeing some of these other things, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could change the way we do business to really have some sort of sliding scale? I don't know exactly what it is, but some way of being able to help people who need the help. And the people who don't really need the help to not, they don't need the help. So let's focus on helping the people who actually need the help. And I don't have all the answers for it. Like I said, I'm still trying to learn and going through this, but what I will tell you is some of the people that I've offered those discounts for, they've actually used them, right? And so to me, I see it as a way that I, as a business owner, can be like my friend and help the people who actually need the help. Okay, so that's one part and one thing to kind of bring out of, well, can we do business differently? And again, so think about how you do business, especially if you're a business owner or if you're an executive in a corporation. Are there ways that you can do business differently that don't follow the normal economic model, but actually make a big impact in the world, right? Because that's what I hope we would start doing, right? So let's talk about money in general now, and a little bit about kind of your relationship with money. Because a lot of times, until we can change how we view money, a lot of people, and even people that are watching this video, a lot of them are going to be like, "Oh, Jason, you're full of shit," right? Those people should pay me, and they should pay me what I'm worth, and everybody should pay the same amount. Well, is that really what needs to be, or is that just something you believe because that's what you've been taught based on maybe the capitalistic market that you live in, i.e., America, right? America. And I would say maybe we need to start questioning some of those things and some of the ways in which we run our economy, in the way we pay people, in what we charge for certain things. And there's some examples of this in different places. For example, some states don't charge sales tax on food, right? Because food is a basic necessity, and so they don't charge sales tax on food. That's kind of along this vein, right? And that helps these people who need the help the most by not, increasing their food bill by 5 or 10%, depending on where you live, right? For the sales tax side of it. And what I'll tell you, because Brad Miller just put a comment in here where he says, "This is a message I'm working to spread to lawyers. Quote, making lots of money is great, but in the end, all be all. Happiness is much more important, right? And it is. And when money consumes your life, when you're so worried about, and most of your day is tied up in making money and spending money, it's a miserable place to be, because there's a lot of added pressure that gets put on you. In fact, money issues are one of the top reasons for divorce. It's one of the biggest reasons of marital discord, between spouses or partners as well. What if we can start changing that? How would your life be better, if you could start looking at it different? Because it's not all about making money. And in fact, I'll tell you, when I was a young man, I worked for this man who, he didn't make very much money. Okay, if you looked at his tax return, and I knew, because I was kind of an assistant manager, I knew how much he was taking out of his business every month, and it was not very much. Okay, but his lifestyle, right? The lifestyle that he had was as if he had a better lifestyle than people that were earning 5 or 6 times more than what he was earning. Now, the difference was he didn't have any debt, right? He was frugal in what he spent. And I remember, this is one of the things that has stuck with me my whole life, that he told to me, and I'm still learning it. He said, Jason, it doesn't matter how much you make. What matters is how much you spend. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Jason, it doesn't matter how much you make. It matters how much you spend. Okay. And again, I kind of understood that, but as I get older and older, I'm understanding it even more. Right. So I know people who make millions of dollars a year. They spend millions of dollars a year. Some of them spend more than they make, right? If you spend more than you make, you're going to have money trouble. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about that. Okay. And to just get very basic, right? Money by itself has no value. Absolutely no value. Okay. And again, people are going to be like, oh, Jason, you don't understand. No, fiat currency, money has no value. Its intrinsic value is in what it allows you to exchange with others. Okay. And we have money in our societies so that, I can do my work and I can go down to the grocery store and I can buy groceries, because I can't walk into my local grocery store and say, I'll tell you what, I'll give you an hour of consulting for this bag of groceries. Because they're going to be like, well, I can't accept that. Right. And so instead, I have to pull out money, my credit card, cash, something that is a fungible good in US dollars to pay for it. Right. And so US dollars in the USA, right, it has value, because I can exchange that $100 for $100 worth of goods, right? But if I walked into my grocery store and I went to pay and I pulled out British pounds, the British pound doesn't do me any good in my local grocery store, because they can't accept it, right? And so, again, that's where money by itself does not have value other than the intrinsic value, and is as a medium of exchange, right? For me to be able to take what I do, right? I make courses, I do coaching, I do different things, right? I do webinars, all different kinds of things. People pay me money for my work. Then I can use some of that money to go buy my groceries or pay my utility bill, right? All those different things. And so, when we first kind of stop and realize that money doesn't have intrinsic value, that starts to change. It's not an end all be all, right? You can't eat money. You can't eat a bar of gold, right? And so if we start thinking about it a little different, and the whole purpose of us being on this earth is not to make money. right? How much money you make, how little money you make has nothing to do with why you are here. Okay. From a bigger cosmic spiritual nature, it has nothing to do with why you are here. So don't let money rule your life, right? The minute you let money rule your life, you go down the rabbit hole. And that's a bad place to be, okay? Because then it becomes all consuming. I have to make more. 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 The problem is the more money you make, the more money you spend, and you're net in the same situation, okay? And I mentioned at the beginning the difference between being rich and being wealthy. So here's the difference. Riches is money. It's accumulating money. Okay. But if that money goes out just as fast or faster than you're making it, you're not really stable. You're not wealthy. Okay. Because wealth is more about making it so that we are adapting and using our wealth appropriately in ways that actually provides us that stability, that comfort, that ease, right? So that we're not worried about how am I going to make the rent next month? How am I going to pay for my kid's medical bill, right? Wealth, when you actually have wealth, you have more than you need, and you always have more than you need. Now, somebody earning $20,000 a year can be wealthy. Okay. And again, a lot of you are going to be like, no, $20,000 a year, that's poverty. What are you talking about? Well, they're not rich. They don't have lots of money. But if what it takes for them to live is less than $20,000 a year, and they're saving and they can get by fine on that amount of money, they're actually wealthy. They're actually in a state that's better off than the person who's earning $2 million a year but spends $2.5 million a year. Every year they're going into debt more and more and more and more and more, and that means more pressure, more pressure, more pressure to earn more, pressure to earn more, right? To keep up appearances and all these different things. In fact, a lot of you, if you look around and you see people who you think are rich, they're not. Okay. They drive an expensive car. They might live in a mansion, but they're up the wazoo in debt, which means they don't own it. The bank owns it. And the minute they stop paying, the bank is going to take it back. Okay. So as an example, right, the first time that I got to a point where I owned my car outright, I didn't have debt on it anymore. I didn't have to make a car payment every month. The amount of that I got from that was wonderful, right? That's the feeling you get when you become wealthy. Your money isn't going out as fast as it's coming in, right? And I knew that I could drive that car for a long time and never actually have to do that. Maybe I'll talk more about wealth probably in the future, but I know I'm talky. So I'm going to try to wrap this up a little bit. But what if we can start changing how we view money, and that getting money is not the end, right? It's not the reason why we're here. It has nothing to do with how valuable you are as a person. It has nothing to do with how valuable you are to society either, right? Because again, that's a lie that we've been told. We are told that if you earn more money, you must be more valuable to the economy. That's not true. Okay. Because again, just look at it. Here's a simple example, right? How much do teachers make? But how much value do teachers provide to our society? Okay. Huge, huge. In fact, I would say, one teacher has a far greater impact than the CEO of a big company who's earning $100 million a year. Okay. What you make is not the value that you're providing either. What if we can start decoupling that? What if we can stop just chasing after the money? I'll tell you, as I've started doing this in my life, and again, I'm getting older. I got gray. It's not even gray, it's white. Okay. I got white hair now. Okay. But as I have for the last few years really started to change my view of money, I will tell you, I make a lot less money now than I did when I was a corporate executive. But guess what? I have a lot more peace in my life because as I continue to make more money, I spent more money, right? I mean, there was a time in my life where I had almost $2,000 just in car payments each month, right? So that means I have to earn $2,000 just to pay for my cars, so they're going to take them away. That starts to be a lot of pressure, right? What if you can remove some of that pressure? What if you can change how you consume, right? And I'm going to talk a lot more about this in the future, okay? Because this is something that really is starting to bubble up to me, both from an environmentally conscious standpoint, but also from a wealth standpoint for people, is think about how you are consuming. And you get barraged. I mean, we just had the Super Bowl, and I love watching the commercials, but again, the commercials are lies. They're telling you that you have to buy this beer to feel good and have friends. You know, you have to do this or you have to buy this product in order to look sexy. Okay. And that's not true. They're lies to get you to buy products that you actually don't need. Most of the products that are out there, you don't need. And I'm just going to give you a simple example today. And I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips too on maybe how you can start asking yourself some questions and change how you consume as well. Because the more we consume, right, the more of a strain it puts on the earth and the natural resources. And depending on what products or things that you're actually consuming, indirectly, you're actually one of the causes of a lot of the environmental climate issues that we have today. Okay. And I'll get more into that later. I'm not going to talk about all of that today. Believe me, don't believe me, it's fine, but I can show you and I can walk you down the path on how that is true. But let's think about this, okay? Because this was an example that came up today when I was doing that podcast recording. Is we have been told that you need to take a shower every day and you got to wash your hair every day. Now, who tells us that? The people who sell shampoo. Okay. And so there's a lot of tricks in the marketing, but effectively has been telling people for a long time, oh, you can't have greasy hair, right? You can't have greasy hair. You got to wash your hair every day. In fact, there's some of the shampoo companies that put rinse and repeat on the bottle to encourage people to wash their hair once in the shower, rinse it off, and then wash it again. Now, that's great from a business perspective because guess what? If you believe that, now you're buying twice as much shampoo from me as you used to be. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. We need to shower. We need to bathe. Do you need to wash your hair every day? No. Okay? And again, believe me, don't believe me, but here's the point in fact, okay? Look at how many people are going bald today. And I'm not bald, okay? In fact, I'm growing my hair out a little bit. Woo! Right? But most people thought I was bald. I wasn't bald. I was just cutting my hair very short because I could, and I liked it at the time. But it wasn't because I was losing my hair. But look at your own head. Look at how many, even women are losing their hair in their 20s and 30s. Their hair is damaged, it's thin, it's falling out. Because most of the time we think of balding as a man issue. It's not a man issue anymore. And like I said, don't believe me, but look around. Look at the people that you know, look at yourself. People's hair is falling out. Now, why is their hair falling out? Because they're shampooing their hair every day. That is one of the big reasons. That's one of the things that has changed that is leading to this. Now, again, believe me, don't believe me, I don't care, right? But I have a picture of my great grandfather who had this huge flowy mop of hair, okay? And he was old in that picture. He was probably in his 70s or 80s in that picture. Why did my great grandfather have such a huge mop of hair? Because he wasn't buying shampoo and washing his hair every day. Now, that's just one simple example. And I'll talk about more, but do you really need to wash your hair every day? Well, if you stopped and you only wash your hair every other day, guess what? Here's where math comes in, okay? And I'm a CPA, so I know some math, right? If you only wash your hair every other day, you just saved yourself 50% on your shampoo costs. You just saved 50%. What if you only do it every third day? Now you've saved yourself 67% on your cost. And so again, you might say, oh, Jason, that's just so silly. I don't spend that much money on shampoo. Well, you might be surprised how much you actually do spend. And what if just from that one decision, all of a sudden you started having an extra $20 a month? That's how you're going to start being able to build wealth, right? Think about a little bit more from a consumer standpoint. Do I really need that? Or do I just want it? Right? Because, and again, I'm using me as an example. Okay. When I moved last year, I got rid of a lot of clothes. Okay. I got rid of a lot of stuff too, right? And anytime that you move, especially across country, you realize how much you've accumulated over time because we just buy things all the time, right? And so that money that you have fought for, that you've worked really hard to get, we give it away much easier than it takes us to earn it, right? And that's one of the things, again, I'll talk more about kind of with the relationship of money. But if you let money go so easily, but you have to fight so hard to get it, then there's an imbalance in how you're actually looking at your money, right? But let's go back to the clothes, okay? I said I got rid of a lot of clothes. And the honest truth is, guess what? I only have 2 feet, which means I can only wear one pair of shoes at a time. I only have one body, right? I can only wear, well, I say that now I'm bundled up today, right? So I'm wearing a couple of tops because it's colder in my office right now. But I can't wear 15 shirts at the same time. And again, I'm not saying don't buy the shirts, but what I'm saying is I know for myself, I still have clothes hanging in the closet with the brand new price tag on that I've never worn. Okay. And that has really started to hit me as I've gotten older, right? Do I really need that new whatever? Do I really need another pair of shoes? I'm wearing the same shoes every day. I wear the same shoes every day. I've got an extra set of shoes for when these go out. Do I really need to buy new shoes? Probably not, right? Until I wear out my shoes. I don't need it, but I'm a simple guy, right? I'm a simple guy. I wear pretty much the same stuff every day. Those of you that watch my videos, some of you are probably chuckling like, oh, Jason's there again. He's wearing the same thing. Does the guy ever shower? Does he ever change his clothes? Well, I do. Okay, but I tend to wear the same clothes over and over again. If you stop, right, and think again about all of the things that we're consuming, do we really need as much as what we're consuming? The answer is no. Okay. And one simple example, and one thing that I'm starting to do is think how people lived before we really got into this age of consumerism. And the age of consumerism really started after the Second World War, but it started kind of at the turn of the century, okay, with the roaring 20s and the excesses in the 20s. Then we had the Depression, then we had the war. People came back home, they had money, Companies started making new things, coming out with new products, and we've been marketed to differently after the Second World War, to where we believe that we need all of these things that we need to buy, right? Because we get advertised up the wazing about all the things that you have to have, right? And it reminds me of the Stones song Satisfaction, right? Where if you listen to that song, and again, that song was done probably in 64, but go back and listen to that song, right? Well, he can't be a man because he doesn't smoke the same cigarettes as me, right? Even back then, oh, well, you must not be a real man because you don't smoke the kind of cigarettes that I do. And I'm a man because I've been told that these are the kinds of cigarettes that I need to smoke if I'm going to be a real man, right? Because, and that goes back to Marlboro, the Marlboro man and the real, you know, rustic kind of man, you know, you're not a real man unless you smoke Marlboros, right? Well, that's not true. It was just their way of trying to get you to buy Marlboro cigarettes, right? So if you like Marlboros, smoke them, fine. If you don't, smoke something else, right? Um, but anyway, this video is not encouraging you to smoke. So let me put that out there. But if you choose to, then do, right? It's fine. It's fine. It's your choice. Do what you want to do. But can we start thinking about some little things that you're doing in your life, right? Because again, you might sit there and say, Jason, you know, only washing my hair every second day or third day, how does that have anything to do with this? Well, because if you're saving a little bit of money, you don't have as much financial pressure as if you're spending that much. And so what areas in your life can you start doing this and making some small changes that'll actually give you some more breathing room, allow you to save more money, allow you to start having a wealthy mindset. And again, wealthy is not rich necessarily, okay? You can be very wealthy in this country, even the United States of America. You can be very, very wealthy if you only earn $100,000 a year, if you're only spending $50,000 a year, right? And again, some people would be like, well, how can you do that? Well, there's certain things that you're paying for that you probably don't need to pay for, right? But you're told that you need to pay for them. Do you need to buy that extra set of clothes, right? Again, let's go back 100 or 150 years ago. How many clothes did people have? Families literally moved their whole house in like suitcases, okay? Everybody only had enough clothes to put in the suitcase. You know, maybe you had 4 or 5 different outfits, one for going to church, maybe a couple, you know, 2 or 3 that were your work clothes, especially if you were in kind of a blue collar work, and maybe one for going out on the town, right? If it's a special occasion. And so people for a long time have only had a few sets of clothes. Do we really need as many clothes as we have? Now, some of you are going to be like, oh, yes, I have to have it. Well, okay, fine, right? But are there some other areas in your life where you might be able to do things a little bit different and change, right, your relationship with money, change how you're consuming as well, right? Some other examples, right? Do you need to flush the toilet as often as you do? You know, if you're just doing number one, you probably don't have to flush the toilet every time. Now, what if you only flush the toilet half as much as you did before? Guess what? Here comes the math again. You spend 50% less on water than you did before, right? And so, you know, again, there's little things, and for everybody, it's going to be something different. But if you look around, most of the people selling you things are lying to you, okay? Because they want to take your money from you. And you worked really hard for it, right? Now, on the flip side too, right? In ways of doing business. I talked a little bit about this. Brad says my wife would disagree about the toilet. Okay, well, that's fine. You guys take that up, right? You know, I'm just using examples, right? Well, same thing. So here's another one of the lies that's out there, right? Is if you drive your car, right? Well, how often are you supposed to change the oil in your car? Well, the oil companies have done a very good job of telling people that you need to change the oil in your car every 3,000 miles or 3 months. Why? Because they want you to buy oil. But don't believe me, but go out into your car, pull out your owner's manual, and read how often the manufacturer suggests that you change the oil. And for most people, it's 7,500 to 10,000 miles, not 3,000, right? So there's another simple example of, hey, if you only get your oil changed in your car every 7,500 or 10,000 miles, guess what? You just saved yourself again 67 or 75% of what you would have normally spent. Now, again, standard oil change, I don't know what they're at now. But let's say it's $40 or $50, right? Well, if you're only doing one a year instead of four a year, you just save yourself $150, right? And again, doesn't seem like a lot, but how could $150 kind of relieve some of the stress that you have from a money perspective? If you had an extra $150 in your pocket. Now you might say, oh, it's not that much money, but I guarantee you, if I walked up to you and said, hey, I've got $150, will you like it? You're going to take it, right? You wouldn't be like, oh no, that's not enough money, Jason. You just keep that money. If you give me $1,000, I'll take it, but I won't take 150. Of course, you're going to take the 150, right? So where can you start doing that in your lives as well? So anyway, I've kind of rambled a little bit today, but I kind of wanted to kick off because, as you can tell, I'm a little bit passionate about some of this stuff, and I think I'm going to start talking more and more about it. And we just had a comment come through here too. Paul Myers, imagine the money we would all save if we didn't go to Tim Hortons or Starbucks, or even eating out as often as we all do. Restaurants are getting rich while we're all going broke. Absolutely, Paul. And I will tell you something. I used to work for food companies. Okay. And one thing I've changed in my life is I don't go out to eat much anymore. Because, not even just for the idea of, making the restaurants rich. And again, if it's a mom and pop, I'm better with that than if it's like a national chain, because I know that a lot of the national chains don't pay their employees very well. They don't treat them very well. And they're kind of gouging you. And again, it's the same thing. Like if you go to Starbucks every day and you pay $8 for a thing of coffee every day, if you get the big, whatever, all the fancy shit that goes in it, you're probably paying, $6-8 a day. Well, I have a little Nespresso machine here at home. I can make espresso if I want to. I can make coffee if I want to. And it costs me about $1 per cup. Okay. So that's a huge difference, right? Now, again, I have to make the coffee, but I also don't waste the time going out, waste gas, driving to it either, right? So again, that could be another thing that you do. But for me, on the eating standpoint, one of the reasons why I don't go out to eat hardly at all, unless it is in fact, probably in the last 5 months, I've only gone out to eat 2 or maybe 3 times. Okay. And the bigger reason for me is I don't know where the food is coming from, and I don't know the energy that is in the back of the kitchen that's actually making the food. And I know we have food safety laws and all these different things, right? But it's more than just that. It's also the energy. Imagine if somebody in the back of the restaurant is yelling and screaming and having a bad day and angry, and they're making your food. Some of that energy goes in your food. So you're not just eating what you think is food, but you're also kind of picking up on some of that negative energy as well. Now, what we're told is food and what is actually food, that's a topic for another day. Okay. But what I will tell you is this: most of the food that you buy in the grocery store, if it comes in a can or a box, most of the food that you eat in restaurants is dead food. It has been killed in order to get it to that point. And most of it is not organic, fresh. It's, you don't know what's gone into it as well from a fertilizer and chemical standpoint. And so I prefer to control more of the food source that I have. So I usually buy organic, fresh as much as possible. And the way we cook in my house, we actually have gourmet meals every single night, okay, that I know is better quality food. But guess what? It's also cheaper. I pay way less in food costs than I would if I were to go out and try to get a similar meal, which you can't actually get like that in a restaurant. So, again, maybe that's another area for you to think about. Soda is another one, right? Do you really need to drink soda if you want caffeine? There's different ways to get it, right? But anyway, I know I've kind of talked a long time today, and there's more to come. But just to kind of wrap up, can we start to do business differently? Can we start to change some of the economic models that we have? Can we start to change our relationship with money? Because once we do that, and once we get to a point, our lives can be totally different. I mean, again, I am much more relaxed, much more calm. I don't feel the stress as much as I used to, as I did when I was a young father who had, 4 mouths to feed and was working long hours in a corporation, but I was also spending everything I was making. Right. So anyway, just some questions to throw out there, some thoughts for you. There's more to come. Again, comment below if you want to, but thanks everybody for listening through to the end, and we'll see you on the next live video.